Bobby Bowden and Jimbo Fisher posted a lot of those championship banners. The offense got a lot of credit, but it started on defense, and defense is going to lead Florida State back to the top of the ACC. We got Logan Robinson standing by, of course, from Noel Game Day. That's a place for your daily Florida State content. No doubt about that. Logan, how's it going?
Doing good, Mark. Yes, defense, I think I am the most excited about going into this upcoming season with Tony White, Florida State's new defensive coordinator, coming from Nebraska. And just really some of the bright spots from last season came from the defensive side, with some of the younger players getting more burn when the season was like it was in 2024. So there's some names that we're keeping a close eye on during this spring camp, and some names that I'm very excited to talk about this morning with you, Mark.
Tony White, known for running physical and fast defenses. He certainly talks that game, and he's backed it up with 3 consecutive defenses ranking in the top 25 in the country. I know Daryl Jackson's been around a long time. Of course, the one-time Miami transfer, redshirt senior, so he's going to be a staple up front, no doubt about that. Patrick Payton was a guy, obviously, that was counted upon to be that next DN that was going to be a game changer, but we got to find out that he was basically benefiting from the other dude on the other side most of those times. But decent player that's moved on, James Williams. That's a nice pickup on the outside as well, as you set us up, Logan, on the defensive front.
Yeah, James Williams really starting off there through the transfer portal. A guy that wanted to get more downs, also too was going to follow wherever Tony White was going to be going. Anyways, those two have a very close connection with one another, almost like a father figure to him. And James told us that he feels like it's been a complete change in his life, and getting down into Tallahassee, getting into camp with FSU. He feels like this has been it's revitalized him, and he's really excited for what he can bring to this defense. They need someone that can be a pass rusher, like you were saying there with Pat Payton. He was not someone that you really could count on of being a disruptor and affecting the ball game. And by doing that as a defensive end, you've got to get and provide pressure and get to the quarterback. And some that like you just said, probably relied a good little bit on a guy named Jared Verse, defensive rookie of the year, who absolutely killed it with the Rams this last year. And then too, we go into the interior a little bit as well, and you look at Daryl Jackson, and it's someone that you brought up that I personally wanted to see a lot of things change with. Yes, fundamentals, wanted to improve there as a player overall. Terrence Knighton, very excited about him. He almost left for the NFL draft with one of his best friends, Joshua Farmer. But Terrence Knighton and him, also the staff, meet with Daryl Jackson. That changes course. He takes his name out of that, and he comes and returns to the Florida State Seminoles for one final year and his college eligibility. And, to me, the biggest thing for me is watching his leadership, and it's got to improve. And that's something that we saw a lack of all across the board last year. And that's something that Mike Norvell completely overlooked. Offensively, defensively, anywhere, there was not a whole ton of leadership on this team after you lost a lot of that squad from 2023. Guys like Jordan Travis, obviously, but Jared Verse, who brought the juice and a lot of that energy to practices every single morning or afternoon. You had guys in the linebacker room like a Kalen DeLoach. You had a guy in the defensive back room, Jarian Jones. There's just so much of a leadership room. Fabian Lovett there on the inside of the defensive line. So guys last year like Patrick Payne, Daryl Jackson, Joshua Farmer, they weren't, leaders that I don't think a lot of the team looked up to in that regard like you had previously. So I'm looking at Daryl Jackson. We've heard some really good things about him going through tour duty where they do all their workouts, and it's not easy. And we also saw Daryl Jackson wearing one of those turquoise jerseys, which means that through a consecutive amount of those tour duties, he's impressing. He's one that's leading the group. He's the one that's performing at the highest level possible in those workouts. And we've also heard from James Williams himself talking about Daryl Jackson being very hands-on with him, also too with the entire defense and the defensive line being a leader and being someone that is very open in their, trying to take those strides into becoming one of these top leaders and these potential captain going into this next season. And that's the biggest thing for us, is watching Daryl Jackson make those strides, because I've spent a lot of time talking about him here because it's kind of pivotal. Behind him, I don't know how much depth you have that can be someone that is a disruptor. And, we have some guys, talking about Daniel Lyons, someone that has been in this rotation a heavy amount of time, a ton of experience now, and Florida State has always thought very highly of him. And then you've got KJ Sampson as well, who had some burn this last season because everybody had some burn. And so, the defensive line is all going to be talked about with Daryl Jackson. I'm very interested to see who can combine in there. And, it's Tony White's defense now. Things are going to change, different scheme. We're going to see some other guys on the inside as well. There's going to be a handful of movement all across that defensive line. You brought in Jason Jenkins from Tennessee, Deontay McCray, Jaden Jones, Diamante Diggs, Amari Williams, who is going to work this spring a little bit back at the defensive end room. He was a tight end in his freshman season, but they're going to work both sides of the ball for him. You've also got Aaron Hester, and then you've got some younger guys like Jesse Harold, Tylon Lee, who have put on some serious amount of size, both 32 pounds upwards since arriving in the spring. But then, like I was just saying there, with Daryl Jackson, when you go on the inside, Mark, he is the name that we're all going to be keeping a close eye on, because they're expecting a lot from him this upcoming season. So looking at Daryl Jackson, KJ Sampson, Daniel Lyons, but then one of my most favorite additions to this roster, both high school and transfer, is Kevin Wynn, who was their top rated recruit that stuck in this class, who is just looking at his film, he's a monster. He's a monster at the high school level, very physical, likes to ragdoll you. And it's something that I think we'll see a little bit early of in his career at Florida State. It's going to be very hard to keep him off the field. I think he put up a good amount of size too as well in the spring. I want to say 20-something pounds. He's one that I'm keeping a close eye on, that Florida State hopefully can see some jump. I'm very glad that he's arrived in the spring, because I think they're going to want to get him into the rotation behind guys like KJ Sampson and Daniel Lyons. So this defensive line room, I think there's a lot of work. If I'm looking at what Tony White's biggest job is, and it starts in the spring, it is trying to figure out these pieces that fit the best in the defensive line room going into this 2025 season, where they kick off against Alabama to start the season.
Florida State fans, while you're waiting for the Noles to come back, every day is a destination at Nole Game Day. So you track the team day by day on Nole Game Day. And then why not do this? Disputed National Champions, the link's down in the description section. Relive the 90s. Basically, Florida State's half of this book. They lived in national championship races every year. And what's fun about this one, folks, it's not a history book. We take all of these seasons and we put them into the BCS, the 4-team, the 12-team, and the proposed 14-team playoff. So you see how all these seasons would have played out in future generations. So it's a good book. It's gotten a ton of great reviews. So I thank everyone that's reviewed the book and likes it. And the link, again, is down in the description section. And again, Nole Game Day every day right there with Logan and the staff.